Welcome to another episode of the Mick and Mike CryptoCast. We're gonna go over politics as usual, but there's also other stories in the mix. We're gonna talk about Telegram and some of the changes they've made. We're gonna talk about the funding, of course, on the VC side, since we got Mike here from Deep Ventures, and also the boy who cried wolf. I'll let you know what I mean about that. But first, let's talk about Michael Saylor. He likes Bitcoin a little bit, just a tad bit. I'm sure you've noticed this. And so he was just talking about his take on the political landscape, talking about how Republicans are a little bit ahead of the Democrats, but the Democrats are starting to drift to the middle. I'm not sure what that means. I think he's just basically saying that we're making improvements from the political arena perspective. And obviously politics, we try to put that to the side when we're all in crypto and Web3, but there's a lot of implications here. Let's face it, right? We've got the elections coming, and currently, I've been tracking the poly market just to kind of see how accurate it is once we have the election. I'm very curious to see if what it says, that the data that is collecting, some of these bets that people are placing, like how accurate is this going to be in real life? We'll obviously find out soon enough, but this is a good way to transition into one of the stories coming out about another project that Trump is backing, and I believe this is a stable coin. Is that right, Mike?
I think it was a lending platform. I believe the World Liberty Financial. Yeah, I think it was a lending platform.
Okay, a lending platform. Got it. But
stablecoin lending platform. I'm not sure there aren't too many details about it. But yeah, certainly in the DeFi space.
Well, I saw that you put the story in front of me, and there's some red flags, I guess, out there, right, about some of the people involved, some of the centralization risks there. But want to get your take on it first, and then I'll chime in.
I think red flags are a pretty good description of it. First of all, it looked like some of the team members who in the white paper that are building World Liberty Financial previously worked on a DeFi protocol called DO Finance, which was drained for a couple of million back in July. That's red flag number one. I think another team member also started like an OnlyFans competitor and also registered a company called Date Hotter Girls LLC is under his name. And I think also, the tokenomics of the project. Something like 70% of the tokens are allocated to insiders, and of the remaining 30%, they were going to be distributed by a public sale, but the founding team will also receive part of the proceeds for that of that public sale. So a lot of just interesting things about the team, about the way they're designing the tokenomics of the protocol, raises just a few red flags for this lending protocol. What do you think?
I mean, I would agree. From 70% of the tokens will be reserved for the project's insiders. I mean, it seems a little bit high, just to say the least, right?
It's unheard of.
Yeah,
high.
That would be an understatement, right? So that's obviously a red flag. The fact that the previous project was hacked, I don't know the details of DO, that DO project that you mentioned. I don't know the details. How they were hacked. Was it like somebody that was doing this from the inside? I will say, just working in security, sometimes bad things happen to good people. So just from that angle alone, not knowing who's behind the exploit, okay? So I want to make sure that I'm treading these waters very carefully as I say this.
Know that there's code from DO Finance that got hacked, right? Like we certainly hope not, but that's just a detail that we're not sure about. So
yeah, and I think that's a very easy, like the people that are technical out there, the ones that develop smart contracts, they can pretty easily tell. If it's open source code, they can look at it and they can compare it to, the other project and see, was this forked? How much of it was forked? And the thing is, when you make a little change, it is completely separate, right? So I kind of take that part with a grain of salt as well, because a lot of times just by changing a few things in the code base, it completely, again, I'm not an engineer, but I work with a lot of them. And my takeaway is that the code base changes drastically, even if you just make a small little change. But overall, yeah, that the centralization risk, that's definitely a big one. So I can definitely see where when you sent me the story and how there are some concerns around this, and there's something else that that came out as well that you shared, which is more on the Kamala Harris administration side, which was that indirectly her team is accepting donations. Now, I say indirectly is because it's through PAC, which is a very big donor to the Democratic Party. I believe they donated a lot of money to Biden, and they've raised, I want to say, like 163 million for Kamala Harris. And so I believe this is through like Coinbase Commerce, right? They're accepting donations. And well, first, let me get your take about this. Like, do you think this is good, bad? What's your overall opinion on this?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think that on overall, look, if you were a Kamala supporter, you would want, and in crypto, you would want her campaign to be accepting crypto directly to the campaign, right? Not through indirectly through a PAC. That would be the ideal. But I just think overall this is a solid development because at least people who are involved in are kind of supporting the campaign are recognizing the impact and the importance of crypto voters. So I think it's certainly a step in the right direction, and I think kind of to what Saylor said, overall Republicans are moving a little bit faster towards being smarter and better and more accepting of crypto, but the Democrats are certainly moving towards that direction as well. So I think that's definitely a positive for the campaign and overall for the crypto industry.
So I completely understand where you're coming from. I think as bad as this story looks, sad to say, I think that's a better story than this. Here's why. Here, again, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about last time. People are building. Now, whether or not Donald Trump understands what he's being associated with, I hope so. I don't think that he would publicly be associated with individuals that are rugging. If he's trying to get the crypto people, I don't think he can fool them, right? I don't think he's going to be able to fool people that have been in crypto for a very long time. What I don't like about this story is that you're indirectly accepting donations. So just come out and say that you support crypto, but you're not. Instead, you're accepting crypto indirectly because you don't want to upset your traditional supporters who may be anti-crypto. So in my humble opinion, I feel like, why don't you just come out, be direct, be transparent, and start supporting this industry like Trump is, even though it's not maybe the best project, but we know where he stands. He's putting his actions where his mouth is, right? He is not only saying it, but he's backing up his words with actions. Here, we're not hearing anything. And when we do get a glimpse of maybe this is good news, oh, we find out this is, accepting donations indirectly. So I would love to see Kamala Harris come out and just say, yes, we're accepting it because we're in full support of this industry. So that's just my take on the difference between these two stories.
Yeah, here's the thing. So right now, if you're just looking specifically at Trump's versus Kamala's activity in crypto, like Trump has said all the right things, right? He said, he showed up at Bitcoin Nashville. He's saying how, he's a big supporter of crypto. he like it's weird that even though he's supporting um, this World Liberty Financial, it's like he doesn't have to do it, and it's actually, I think it's hurting him. Yes, he's like looking to kind of go a step forward in supporting things, platforms that in general we support with like decentralized finance lending platforms, right? But he doesn't necessarily have to do it, and like now it's becoming a negative for him because of all the news that's coming out about the project, and it just shows that he doesn't really know like what he's talking about. Yeah, he's supporting it, but like now you're talking about builders who had a prior hack, and then you got this bad tokenomics, and like people who are in the industry know about this stuff and can recognize these potential red flags. So I think it actually hurts him by it just kind of shows that he doesn't really know who or his kids like don't really know like who are good builders and how to actually operate in the space, and we can't really expect them to know all the little details about this stuff because there's a lot. But I just overall on a high level, like those are just red flags that you don't want anything to do with and put your name next to, right? So that's one thing. It's just like it's actually become more of a risk, I think, for him to be continuing to support this. And on the Kamala side, I mean, I think it's all, it's slow. It's slow. I think she's kind of staying in her lane in terms of not making any big definitive statements, and I think a lot of people don't like that, right? Like you said, you're like, why not just come out and say it? It's very slow. I think it's slower than a lot of us would like to see. We would love to see that. A lot of people would love to see a full support. I don't think it's there. I don't know if it's going to come, to be honest. We would love it to come, but it's just it is on point of like the approach that she's been taking. But in general, it's like a step. It's not a huge step, but it's a step.
Part of her overall goal and theme here is that she's being very mindful about when she talks, what she says, being very careful, and obviously everything's going to be laid out on the table come the debate. So at the time of this recording tomorrow, so we'll see. Maybe crypto will become maybe it'll be one of the questions on there. I think we're all kind of hoping just for that, right? We're all hoping that it's a big enough of an issue that it does come up in the debate. So we shall see. But the last thing I would say about what the Trump team and his kids and what they're doing, I almost want to compare it to like a Solana, because you kind of try to do things, develop something, and when it breaks, like, and you're at a loss, you figure it out at that point. I feel like it's like the entrepreneurial mindset where you don't ask questions, you just do it, and then you figure it out on your own as you go. And so maybe this is going to be one of those scenarios where it's going to be a hard-learned lesson where, people like you and I may think, okay, these are some red flags, I'm going to stay away just because, I don't know, this might be headed down. But for them, maybe they need to go through that experience just to understand it and just to fully understand what it's like to be a builder in the space. But yeah, I certainly hear your side of it as well. I think one thing you and I can both agree on is that, when it comes to Telegram, there's been a lot of news about Pavel and what's been happening on that front. And obviously, we all want the best for Pavel, and we all want to believe that he's a good guy in the space. We all use Telegram for crypto. Something that I should say you saw that you brought to my attention was some of the small changes, small tweaks that they've made. So this was a tweet that you came across. Kind of shows the difference between what their policies were internally, like before and then after the arrest of Pavel. And I was taking a look at this, and they've become a little bit more, I guess, censored, a little bit more centralized, like a little bit more organized. You can argue. And personally, I understand where this is coming from, but I do worry about the future of this platform for people that are in crypto. I think one of the things that gravitated us towards this platform was the fact that you didn't have this censorship. Now you're putting all of these guardrails in place. And so I'm wondering if people are feeling like, okay, this is just going to be another WhatsApp. And that's not really the platform of choice for people that are in crypto. So a little bit more control now, a little bit more regulation. People that are going to be reporting these issues, I I don't know, like somebody can report something that it's not really, a red flag. So I don't know. I'm personally not a big fan of this, but I understand that his hand was twisted in this regard.
Well, I don't even like. I don't. It was weird because when tier 10K is the account that posted on Twitter, who's typically like, at least from what I've seen, like pretty reliable in terms of the crypto news that they report. And yeah, they said that there were some changes in the FAQs that at first it said that chats and group chats are private amongst the participants. They don't process any requests related to them, and now they have like you said, the report buttons that let users flag illegal content for moderators. And then there's a community note that said it was false, and then the community note got taken away, and then the community note came back, and I don't think it was there actually. The latest that I've looked at it, which was a couple days ago. The scammers and the con artists, like we're there's such a small percentage of Telegram users, and they're obviously giving the rest of us who are using the platform properly in crypto, a bad name. But it's a concern for all of us, right? Like I haven't seen anyone absolutely try to say, look, I'm not using Telegram anymore. Let's move to Signal or some other messaging platform. But like I think it's certainly a story worth monitoring, because they're making a lot of other changes as well. So Pavel's actually he's got his own channel, and he communicates all the other changes. They've kind of done away with this people nearby feature, changed it to businesses nearby for only like verified businesses. They've disabled new media upload to their blogging tool, but because it was being used in inappropriate ways by anons and bots. So like they have to kind of take these steps to kind of allay the fears of their users and comply to some of the regulations of these governments. But yeah, I think it's something that we, as people who use the platforms, many times a day, we have to keep our eyes on this story and make sure that the platform is something that we can still depend on to maintain our privacy and just be able to do business on.
Do you think that if Telegram was a U.S. business and Pavel lived in the States, do you think that he would still be in the same predicament?
Oh, that's a good question. There is more of ability for U.S. companies to kind of push back on that, right? Like I think you've seen that Apple has not allowed backdoors to the iPhone when the U.S. government has pushed for that, and so I think that it would still certainly be a topic of debate, but I think that maybe he would be able to kind of push back a little bit more, because freedom of speech, privacy is very important in the States. So that's my first initial thought.
And I also compare him to somebody like Elon, which I understand that from an influence perspective, not the same, right? Elon's got so many different companies, and Tesla, which is a public traded company. So I understand that there's that aspect. I don't know if it's a geolocation thing or more of just an influence on society, and if it would just be a bigger deal, and the government would just get a lot more backlash about doing something like that. But it is something that it's fun to talk about in terms of whether or not, are things just different in different parts of the world? And I think everybody would agree that culture is different, laws, regulation is different. When you go to a different country, like we go for conferences, you need to respect their laws. You're in their country, you're on their land. And maybe this just kind of goes along with that, where different countries have different values, and things that we value here in the United States, where we're based, is going to look a lot different than the other countries. So,
100%.
transitioning a little bit, Mike, I have a question for you. Are you familiar with the story of the boy who cried wolf?
I was very curious to hear what that was about when you mentioned it in the intro.
Yeah, so this storyline came up about near blockchain, and it's a very reputable chain in my humble opinion. I'm a big fan of Near Protocol. I went to their conference in Portugal. This was like a couple of years ago, and I felt like it was the best conference that I've been a part of. You obviously have the big ones, right? You got Token 2049, you've got Consensus, you've got really reputable conferences in the space. But when I went out to the near conference, there was so much food. I felt like I just entered into like an all-inclusive resort. And if there's like a way for me to, I guess like the key to my heart is through my stomach. And so it really worked. I felt like I got a lot of good networking in. I talked to a lot of amazing people. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that you just grab a plate, you eat, and you end up just like talking to people, right? So, but that aside.
To that point, just before we jump in on why, like, I was so surprised that so many of these conferences, many of them, I think they've gotten better, but like people paying $1,000 a ticket or whatever to get to the conference, and like they don't even serve lunch. Not even like a little box lunch, right? Like I think many of them have it in the past, and maybe they're doing it now. It's very strange to me that like even a little box lunch can't be served. I don't know. That's just saying. So that's awesome to hear that Near, is shelling out for the good grub.
And I want to say the ticket was like 250, which don't get me wrong, I know for a lot of people that's very expensive, but relative to other tickets in the industry, people that don't go to a conference don't understand how expensive some of these tickets are just to get into the door. And so this kind of goes back to the whole like how inclusive is crypto, right? Like if you're trying to learn and you're trying to better your financial health, it's hard to do that, if you can't even attend some of these conferences. But I also understand from a conference perspective, they want people that are in the industry, they've been in the industry, they have value to give. And so most times, if you're somebody of that caliber, you probably have enough funds to be able to afford this. So that's my guess is that's where they're coming from. But look, that's a different topic we can certainly jump into. But the reason why I compare this story to the boy who cried wolf is because, desperate times call for desperate measures. And supposedly there was, their account was hacked. They came out with some kind of tweet that made everybody kind of like turn their head sideways and wonder, like, have they been hacked? And they came out and they were like, just kidding, not hacked. We're just trying to raise awareness about this event that we're launching. And so they took a lot of backlash for that. And as I mentioned, the team is very smart, very talented. I've met with a few of their engineers before. I talked to them about security, being that that's kind of like my bread and butter. So I understand the level of importance that security plays within Near. So this is just one of those things where I feel like the marketing team and the rest of the foundation are just not on the same page when it comes to their overall values. Didn't seem like it was a good move.
Crypto marketing is an attention game. All right, you kind of have to do. You either have to have this naturally engaged, or build this naturally engaged community that kind of does a lot of the social and the marketing and that outward marketing promotion for you. But a lot of that is going to be driven by the work that these marketing teams do. But yeah, it's an attention game, so you kind of have to get people talking about you, and this is one of the ways to do it, right? We're obviously talking about it. A lot of people on Twitter were talking about it, but saying that you got hacked is like, even though it's just like Twitter, like, especially in crypto, is like such a rough message to get out there, right? That it's such a negative message to have, even though, even if your Twitter is hacked, like that's not your fault, but it just kind of by association, it doesn't look good on you, right? So, that's one thing. And two, I think like for at least, I pay attention to the crypto and AI space. That's one of the places where we look to invest. And Near was actually getting some really positive press around this, right? Obviously, with Ilya's experience with all the transformer research that he did at Google, Near was kind of becoming one of the major chains, the one that was like very focused on AI because of that. And it just seems like they had some attention on, Ilya got touched by Jensen Huang from NVIDIA a few months ago, right? That was a great meme. It just seemed like it was, I don't want to say it wasn't necessary because marketing is always kind of necessary to stay on everyone's radars, but like this approach didn't seem necessary. And I think they were doing a relatively decent job about staying, getting mind share. It was just a bad way to go in terms of getting hacked. And so yeah, and also look, marketing teams are always going to get criticized. They're kind of some of the most, it's the most public job in crypto, and it's a tough situation. I just think that you got to do these things to get attention, but I think the approach was just off.
I think there was another time, not too long ago, where there was a period where the market started to take off, and they actually ended up going through like a full round of layoffs. And I thought it was a very ironic move as to why would you do that? You're ramping up. And as I was asking just folks within my network, like why do you think Near Protocol would do this? So this is nothing that's like confirmed. I'm not trying to start any rumors, but there's a lot of theories to this. And one of them is that, well, clearly if you don't have to pay as many people, your price most likely would shoot up. And so the marketing tactic there was to just try to inflate the price as much as possible. I think the best marketing tactic is price, right? If you want people to talk about you, unfortunately, yeah. But in this industry, if you want to get traction with retail, it's the price is going to do all the talking. Those that are in the industry, we obviously look at on-chain data. We look at how many developers are developing on the chain. What's the users? What are, how many users does it have? There's a lot of factors that we're considering. Most people are just looking at the price, right? And so that is a marketing tactic. And obviously I'm not a fan of people getting fired, but I think even that is probably a little bit more understandable. Because look, there's also other things to consider, like maybe you just don't need as many people, right? That's also a factor. But
so let me clarify.
Yeah, this was a.
Let me clarify. So you're saying that by people off, that would help the price?
Yes, there are some people that believe that played a role in the price increase.
Huh? Because just not specific to this situation, but I would think, well, it's like the positive message is like, okay, yeah, we're hiring because we're growing really fast. Okay, then that would relate with the positive price action. I'm curious to hear that the inverse correlation was there.
Yeah, and maybe this has to do with the fact that you just don't have to pay. When you look at the tokenomics, you just don't have to pay as many of your employees. If somebody out there is studying tokenomics and understands it, maybe they can educate me. And certainly if they can say, no, this is not a way that it can happen, I would love to hear that side of it as well. Because I've had multiple people tell me that, yeah, that's a way for you to inflate the price. The people that were building on Near, I felt like were very down to earth when I met with them in person. And to your point, with the whole AI play, I feel like they could do a lot of good things. Near Protocol can, so that's always good. But while we're on the topic of tech, Mike, being that you're in the VC space, last time we talked about some projects that have gone through funding. Maybe we can touch on a few that recently came out, like Space and Time. There was Puffpaw. Time.fun. Can you talk a little bit about these projects that are gaining some traction?
The first one you talked about, crypto and AI, was Space and Time. They raised 20 million, a 20 million Series A round from huge names, Framework, Arrington Capital, Faction, and others. They're building a lot of developer tools that help build products at the intersection of crypto and AI. So you've got like like data querying tools, infrastructure developer tools like blockchain data indexing. They've got like an AI prompt to generate dashboards and queries from databases. So really this kind of like core developer tooling that that low level infrastructure that all these developers need. Nothing like if you're not a developer, like nothing like super sexy, but just like really useful tools, and they've grown a lot. I think they've grown over 300% in terms of like annual recurring revenue. So there's a real business model here. So yeah, I think certainly just very helpful developer tools that help devs build at the intersection of crypto and AI.
This one was kind of interesting. The Puffpaw .xyz. I mean, this is
Yeah.
it sounds like this is like a fun and healthy way to kind of help people to quit vaping.
The next couple ones that we're talking about, Puffpaw included, are like the ones that they're consumer products that I think really you couldn't truly build them outside of crypto. Like blockchain and crypto is like the best tool to and these can only exist because crypto and blockchain exists. So yeah, Puffpaw raised six million for their vape to earn protocol, right? And so essentially, there's this combo. Believe they're building on Berachain, but essentially they're building vapes that record their users' smoking habits on the blockchain, and the protocol will reward them in tokens for gradually reducing their nicotine intake, right? So like users can only take like certain puffs per day to earn these tokens, or if they may earn more tokens for taking hits of like lower nicotine vapes. And I think there's an issue like we talked about tokenomics. Like tokenomics are very important in these kind of protocols because you're constantly emitting tokens by rewarding your users, and then with more supply, the value of those tokens go down. So you kind of saw that with like the play to earn with the gaming in the last bull cycle. So that's going to be something that to keep an eye on. But I mean, it's just one of those cool crypto incentivized protocols that it's awesome to see that there's got a health benefit to it. There's a kind of a deep in aspect to it because they're actually building something physical in the world. So there's got a lot of very interesting aspects to this that but overall the best part of it is like if it can help many people quit smoking or lower their nicotine intake, that's going to be a win no matter what the the token price is or whatever it might be.
I do wonder if people will figure out ways to, I don't know, like bypass the hardware restrictions. The concept itself is very interesting from like a security perspective, and is it all going to be like fair? That remains to be seen, but interesting. And then
I love stuff that's just super cool. It's a super cool concept. It's just got this human element to it that is really could be really beneficial to a lot of people.
the last one here that you shared with me about Time.fun, that is also interesting. I do wonder how many people are going to get anxiety if they're like hardcore part of this.
So Time.fun, they raised a $3 million round from Brevin Howard, Coinbase Ventures, the Solana founders, Anatoly and Raj, and some others. And yeah, this makes a market around time. And there was actually a Freakonomics episode with Andrew Yang that I recently listened to about I forgot what the term is, but essentially it's like trading time with people, not financially, but like just kind of bartering. It's like, okay, I will, I'll shovel your driveway, for an hour if you do this for me for an hour. It's like pretty interesting. But like this actually makes a market around time, like a true supply and demand market, right? So users can connect with their favorite creators and experts, whatever it may be, by like tokenizing, trading, and redeeming there in your time, right? So there are platforms like Web2 platforms like this. I think Intro is kind of everywhere. It's like Alexis Ohanian, the founder of Reddit, he invested in it. I think he's on. You'll see a lot of ads with him in it, where essentially you can just you pay a rate set by the creator for 15 minutes of their time. I mean, $1,000 per 15 minutes or whatever it may be, right? If they're a high level expert. And that's cool. Like that's great. You get access to these experts, but like they're setting the market for themselves, right? It isn't an openly set market where it's binary, right? It's like, okay, I'm either going to pay Alexis $1,000 per 15 minutes or I'm not, and that's not likely going to change until he changes that rate. But now, from what I understand from Time.fun is like you can trade and redeem, and it's a lot more. The market is way more open. There's no kind of centralized rate setting. It is those rates are kind of determined by what the market is willing to pay for them. So again, it's like one of these kind of financial primitives that like can't really truly be done outside of crypto, because crypto allows you to make a true market out of everything. It's really interesting. It could be damaging to your ego if you don't think that if others don't think that your time is worth as much as you think it is. But then again, it's like, you got to face the truth, right?
Let's say you own an agency or like some kind of like consulting firm, and you're charging people for their time. Like, well, let's see how much your time is actually worth. No, but these are interesting. One thing that I observe about these three projects that you brought to my attention was that one is infrastructure, right, and the other two have more of like a consumer aspect to it. And us being in the industry, we're not really seeing a lot of traction on the consumer side just yet. We're not really at that point in the market, but obviously the money is flowing into it. Is it one of those things where do you think the VCs, they know something that we don't in terms of where we are in the market and where we could potentially be headed?
Look, I think it just kind of says that it's still very early, right? I think we've been saying that for many years now, right? But it really is, because you look at just the way things have other industries have developed, like just in general the internet, right? Like you needed to build these the core infrastructure, you needed to kind of build these operating standards. And then once you have the speed and the distribution, and you're getting the internet into the hands of many people, then you're able to kind of build those, that facilitated the development of blogs, of social media, social networks, and then further along you get the smartphone, and then that facilitated Uber and everything that goes along with GPS and all that. So like. It takes many years. It takes decades. So I still think that like certain infrastructure needs to be improved upon and built. But yeah, I mean, I think now is about the time where you're transitioning a little bit of those founders are building more consumer apps, and still they're going to be more for the crypto. Right now a lot of the adoption of these is these products are being adopted by the crypto natives, and still there's other infrastructure needs to be built to go, across to get mass adoption. But yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see more and more interesting apps like Puffpaw and Time.fun being built primarily for the crypto natives first, and then as things get better, as the UX gets better, the adoption of these types of apps grows, and then that'll kind of cause a nice virtuous cycle of other builders building more for consumers, and then that funding cycle happens. So long-winded answer, but I still think it's very early for overall crypto, but also especially for consumer applications to be built.
Mike, always appreciate you sharing those insights about some of the latest projects that are being funded. For those at home that are watching, if you enjoy this type of content, please consider subscribing to the channel and give us a like. And also, we've got other podcast episodes that we've recorded about different topics. Some of them are the same, like politics. And so
around November, we'll probably stop talking about that, right?
Probably. But until then, I look forward to our debates for sure. Mike, thanks so much. It was a real pleasure.
All right, man.